caravans that are going to be made available to the public for rental purposes, as well as any other business concerning Serenity Park. The opening of that, the announcement will come imminently. So, without further ado, the local housing minister.
Morning, everyone. I know I'm not camera friendly, my girl, but if you have an app that could change my ugliness. Pulling legs there. Morning, everybody. All right, I'm Richard Frederick, as you all know, Minister with responsibility for housing and local government. I think it was a couple of weeks ago when I was questioned as to the status of the parking meters. And of course, I professed my ignorance then. I undertook to get an update, and I am reporting to you today. The unfortunate thing is, as with many, many judgments, which were inherited by your humble servant at the Castries City Council on July 26, 2021, those judgments were not alone. Last week on my show, I actually showed judgments that total millions and millions of dollars, given the lawless manner in which the city council operated. In fact, in one judgment, the judge refers to the past mayor as extremely arrogant, lawless, and was doing anything to get a given individual fired. I could tell you that case resulted in a judgment of pretty close to $200,000. So yes, there are many of them. And the parking meters was not without its fair share of difficulty. When we came in fact, only on Friday, we received a letter from Mac Mirage, the lawyer for one of the persons who had a contract with City Council for the installation and operation of the parking meters. I could tell you the contractual document is an 86-page document, which I am seeing for the very first time. 86 pages. And so my instructions are, there were two agreements entered into by the last administration, one with profit sharing of 60-40, another one that would take 100% of the revenue and operate the parking meters. When we came in my quest to have this materialize, I do know that there was a bit of equipment at customs. It took us an eternity to get the equipment. We got the equipment, everything is up, and now it depends on the training of our people. But those persons with whom the last administration had the contracts with are not totally satisfied. I see a demand of another $200 and something thousand being demanded from City Council. Don't ask me why, I cannot tell you at this point, but I do know the contracts signed by City Council form the basis of those claims. In fact, in the letter we received from Mac Mirage, addressed to the mayor, it refers to a letter written to the then mayor on the 19th of July 2021. 19th of July, and that date is instructive because it was a mere 7 days before the last general elections that a letter was written to the mayor with a view of settling outstanding issues in relation to those parking meters. That had not been done, and this thing still remains in a manner that we have to bring closure to it. We have to. What we are currently doing now is that, given the fact that those contractors, so to speak, those persons with whom the City Council will engage with prior to my assumption of that portfolio, they have pulled back on training our staff, and I can tell you that we have not stopped there. We have in fact interviewed the persons who will man the parking meters, and the training shall be done by a local contingent of persons with the relevant expertise in that field. So that is another mess we inherited, along with many, many judgments. Quite a few people compliment myself and by extension the government for the facelift that is quite visible. But not what is not visible is the financial mess, the financial quagmire in which City Council finds itself. As I speak today, Lambert Nelson has a judgment pretty close to $1 million. Dexter James over $200,000. Deceased officer de Turville almost $200,000. John Quinlan $350,000. All, and I'm just touching the bucket. I'm scratching the surface, so to speak. All of those judgments have to be satisfied alongside trying to do what you can to increase or improve the aesthetic appeal of the city. But when I came in, I realized that if we had to proceed along the route I inherited, Castries City Council would have been like an institution that would have had to go under. And so, as the old saying goes, a cry for help is a cry of distress is a summons to help. Castries City Council desperately needed new revenue streams. And I started off with building 2 parking lots that provided us with significant revenue and almost another 100 vending booths that provides significant revenue to the City Council. We've not stopped here. We've not stopped here. We are continuing. We want to empower our people because sometimes I listen to the naysayers. You are against vendors, but if I'm giving you a more pleasant ambience, an ambience that is more environmentally friendly to sell your wares, how on earth can I be against you? I'm giving you a place you could lock. I'm giving you a place you could, if it rains, you are not exposed to the elements. You can operate with comfort, but yet they call it being against you. So in addition to building the Bedo Park vending facilities, in addition to building all those along on Darling Road by the Grosili bus stop, in addition to building some more right there by the anchorage, in addition to building those by Massey Supermarket, just built some more there. We now have 22, we have 22 the mobile vending caravans, yes. Another 22. So this is not a government who don't care about vendors. It is the opposite. It is a government that wants vendors to be empowered, to create the enabling environment, and to make them business people, to see this thing as a step in the right direction in terms of wealth generation and independence. That's what it is. So we have 22 caravans. They are here. We are having a slight difficulty now because we were hoping to have moved those persons displaced whilst GPH started the construction of the Vendors Arcade. The sad reality is we have been greeted with news that GPH is saying, government, we cannot do this thing on a piecemeal approach, because the initial plan was to have developed part of the port, take the vendors, put them in the developed part whilst we develop the other part. Now they are asking for almost total vacancy. And that is why and when the caravans would come to our assistance, because it is a headache, but we don't want anybody on the breadline. This government is not about putting people on the breadline. Come what may, it may be a difficult position to deal with. It's a difficult situation, rather, to deal with. But we would have to do whatever we can to ensure that, one, those people are given an alternative, albeit temporarily, and secondly, no one is placed out of pocket, so to speak. So whatever we have to do to ameliorate the situation, we will. It's just that GPH indicated, and I quite understand that, they felt that they could have executed the project in parts, do a first part, let those persons occupy the first part, they would have done the second part, and then all the vendors would have been taken care of. Right now, they're asking for a totally vacant area, which leaves us with the difficulty of finding an alternative. But the fact that we are interested in the livelihood of people, we will ensure that whatever is done will be done to ameliorate the situation. As it relates to Jeremy Street Plaza, I'm very, very pleased. I'm very pleased to announce that I was bold enough to have approached GPH and said to them, look, I need you to do something for me. Well, whilst it sounds something for me, it's something for the people and the city on which every St. Lucian at some point will converge. I indicated to them that, I wanted a bridge from the wharf across over onto the market, and they said that, there were engineering challenges. Given the engineering challenges, I said, GPH, I'm not letting you off the hook. I built Jeremy Street Plaza some 17, 18 years ago, 2007, 2008. It was my brainchild. I executed it as a member for parliament in Castries Central. Not even some paint had gone down on that building. It was in a deplorable state. I am pleased to announce that GPH has given us the funding through the city council to ensure that the place is refurbished, and it will be a very state-of-the-art area where the tourists, I do know, will find solace and will converge on. We are hoping to have the grand opening to coincide with our fourth year as a government, so around July 26, 2025 will be the grand opening of the renewed Jeremy Street Plaza. As it relates to the booths underneath, we have extended them. Those on top, it will look good. We're going to put chrome railings at the top, which would be extremely attractive to the eye. And rest assured, we are taking Castries on a different trajectory. If you are blindfolded and you land here, you may just believe you fall within the ambits of Dubai. That is where we're going with that. Serenity Park. Honestly, ladies and gentlemen, every time I think of Serenity Park, I ask myself whether we all are reasonable people. I ask myself that because I cannot understand, I cannot fathom, I just cannot grasp the analytical thought that went into it to be against the construction of an amphitheater meant for performing artists, that somebody would be bold enough, would be audacious enough to have a demonstration against. I mean, I don't know, it escapes my reasoning. I don't know if any of you can capture it, but I don't understand why anyone would want to do that. Be that as it may, Serenity Park is yet to be totally reopened. The only thing, again, I built Serenity Park in 2008, some 17 years ago, my brainchild. The only thing that was done, apart from, there was no infrastructural upliftment, absolutely nothing. The only thing that was done to Serenity Park was to change the name from Serenity Park to George Mallet Serenity Park. And one must understand that George Mallet, whilst he represented the United Workers' Party in Castries Central, the location of Serenity Park never found itself within the ambit of his constituency. So the thinking behind that, I don't think, was to honor George Mallet, but really to efface the political involvement of yours truly from the face of this country. But the Almighty God had better ideas. So as we stand here now, the amphitheater is completed. There are two changing rooms, male and female, underneath the amphitheater. It came into extremely good use. Right now, it is the home for junior jazz, and we see a lot of talent emerging from the children. I saw a 7-year-old who I had to actually put on television because her performance was out of this world for a 7-year-old. And given that kind of exposure, we don't know if Serenity Park will be responsible for creating another Rihanna.
Another Rihanna won't be a bad idea.
Yeah, right. Another Rihanna that comes from the shores of this beautiful country of ours. But before it is completely reopened, what we have realized was, again, when you do things with a bit of myopia, you don't at the time take cognizance of all the contingencies that you have to make it quite effective. We realize that the fountain occupies a bit too much space. So I can announce we have a brand new fountain on its way. It will be much smaller, and we will have seating around the fountain to facilitate basically a greater audience for the performing arts. So there will be more land space made available due to the occupation of less land by the fountain, and that fountain should be here in the next couple of weeks. So at that time, when it is completely installed, we shall announce an official opening of Serenity Park, and I need not say renaming, but Serenity Park was Serenity Park. It will go back to Serenity Park. And any of you who understand what went into naming of Serenity Park, it tells you one set of people do it in a democratic way, others do it in an autocratic way. Because to name Serenity Park, we actually had a competition. We had a competition of all schools involved in the Castries Basin. All schools were involved. And there was a panel of judges. A panel came together and chose the winning name. The child came from, I think, Ave Maria Girls, and she actually gave a speech on the opening of Serenity Park. How on earth can you just set aside that kind of intense involvement, that kind of democratic process, and impose a name on the people unilaterally? This government will not tolerate that. We will not do things like that. We'll do it in the right way, not only in the interests of the people, but with the involvement of the people.
Question.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Tench.
Jeremy Street Plaza.
Yes.
Could you let us know what would happen to the vendors, the lessors who are there, who occupied the stations before their rehabilitation?
Let me just say, without an iota of doubt, any vendor who was in good standing and who kept to the terms of the lease agreement would have absolutely no difficulty in the reoccupation of the place he or she occupied before.
Okay, and just one last thing. Will
But sadly, I want to say this. I want to say this. You know, I'm not against vendors and I'm not against eating out. But some of those things that we've encountered within those vending facilities, I will not make the videos available now, but they are jaw-dropping. They are jaw-dropping in terms of being health hazards. I will say no more for now, but, you know, we just need to pay particular attention to what we eat and drink out there. I also saw a video this weekend of a guy drinking from water and putting water in what is supposed to be coconut water, and then leaving with his trolley merrily going around selling coconut water. Folks, we just need to be careful.
okay. Will the rent be increased, or will it?
Whatever we do, we are doing, taking the interests of our people at heart. The booths downstairs, the size will increase. So one would expect a commensurate increment, not exorbitant increment, because if you had 500 square feet and you now have 800 square feet, I don't think it's reasonable to expect to occupy 800 square feet for the price of a newly refurbished 800 square feet. So in that regard, but other than that, we are about people. We are about giving people a comfortable environment, an aesthetically pleasing environment, and we will work with the people to ensure they are not out of pocket insofar as the rental is concerned at that facility.
Yeah, quickly, Mr. Minister, you mentioned the mobile caravans.
Yes.
To accommodate the GPS works. Will there be a location? Is there a venue for them? And just one more thing. In terms of the entertainment, we know the city has been ablaze with entertainment now. the market, upstairs market, is that a venue that's on the, for upgrade, or is it a prospective entertainment venue?
Well, put it this way, sadly, we can't do everything at once. Things have to be taken in stages. You see, when people are too ambitious and they show you all sorts of images, they show you all sorts of renderings, and none can come to fruition, that is what you call talking the talk but not walking the walk. Personally, I don't believe in expressing or announcing any project that I know I cannot embark upon. I can say with full confidence that when we are completed with the Jeremy Street upgrade, that I will be looking forward to street parties on Jeremy Street once again. Maybe on a Saturday, maybe on a Wednesday. We don't want competition between Gruzili and Castries, although they are two different locations. But we will do something for two reasons. One, to ensure that the city is kept lively, and two, to create the economic space for our people to make an extra dollar.
Yeah, and the caravans.
The caravans, you see, again, the caravans were never meant to have been in waiting for that eventuality. But GPH just approached us and indicated that whilst we had agreed to have done a portion of the waterfront and then to have those persons occupy there, the plans have changed. And invariably, we have to lend accord to the change of their plans. And in that regard, we will be using the caravans to come to our rescue. As to a location, terms and conditions, those things are yet to be determined. The first thing we need to do is to ensure that the vendors that occupy where GPH was, and they are in good standing, they have done what they had to do, they are taken care of with due dispatch.
Sorry, I just want to go back to what you were saying about the CCC's financial issues.
Yes.
First off, the delay in the parking meters, you attributed it to the legal issues.
Yeah, there are legal issues. There are legal issues, and I have a letter on my phone now that refers to a letter prior that was dated the 19th of July 2021. That would have been exactly a week before the general elections, and I really don't know why anyone would want to get the attention of the administration in an institution that is, basically there's political involvement in the appointment of those persons. I don't know why one would write a letter at that time, but basically the letter was written on the 19th of July 2021. There was a change of administration, and like I said, there were two different companies with which CCC had signed contracts. Right now, I know a demand is being made for some $234,000. I have absolutely no clue as to the foundational basis for that claim. And I want to say this. Since I have been in office, since this government assumed office, CCC has not had one judgment against it. All we do, we keep satisfying judgments. We are trying to make them go away, but they don't go away overnight. And so we have to take an approach that is, it's kind of sporadic in that you have to give every judgment that a little something. Give them something here, something there, something there, to ensure that the whole burden of those judgments don't weigh down on you. And that is what the situation is, but it is sad. That's the way it is.
What becomes of the coconut vendors, though, that sell around
the coconut vendors are still permitted to sell, albeit in a totally different way. We will not tolerate the storing of coconuts right there for them to remain there overnight. I could tell you this: the morning on which the anchorage was opened, I was in that area about 1 a.m., just ensuring that everything was okay. And the amount of rats I saw traversing that area and just walking over the coconuts as though the coconuts were sand, and they're making concrete with the sand. I mean, and those are the very nuts that are cut open for people to consume the following day. So, I mean, we had to take a different approach. The fishermen we want no vending carts with fish around the city. Because I would not spend $300,000 to give you a very appeasing, appealing, and comfortable place with the two quintessential facilities, ice and running water, necessary for fish. And then you still want to take a cart and to drive in the middle of town and to leave all your fish water and your fish guts all over the place. That cannot be tolerated. We live in a society, we live in a country where the backbone of our economic activity is tourism. And our environment, our appeal must be tourism friendly. Let's do it, and together we can make a difference.
Just a final question on your portfolio, local government. What has happened with the establishment of local government elections?
I can tell you, you might see the legislation going before Parliament sometime next month. Because even before the local government elections are held, there must be a legal basis for the calling of those elections. I do know the AG instructed me that the legislation was nearing completion. Once it is complete, we shall table it in Parliament, give it a commencement date. Even if we as politicians are the ones that are empowered at this time to do the selection of councillors, I do believe a participation by the greater community, the constituency itself, lends more, it's more democratically appealing, and so persons know they can get involved. They voted for you as their councillor and they can approach you. So it is election as opposed to selection. And even if I as minister enjoy the authority to do the selection, I still believe maximum participation is of utmost necessity.
How can one access purchasing or renting one? Can anybody or just for vendors?
No, well, I'm sure you heard, Novita, that at this time we have to prioritize. It's no fault of ours. We are confronted with a situation that just came down on us in terms of GPH having, or wanting rather, all the vendors to vacate. So those persons have to be given priority in terms of a different location to get their goods sold. So obviously they will have priority. Other than that, as long as the caravans are idle, not that they will remain idle, but as long as they have not been assigned, then citizens are free to approach the city council to contract for the use of those caravans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, good. Okay, we're going to keep things going right along. All right, good. So we have the Minister of Youth and Sports, who I'm sure is excited to talk to you about the turnout, the results, the fanfare concerning the final SPL game that took place yesterday at the Grosley Mini Stadium. I will not steal the thunder, and I'll invite the Minister to the lectern to give you the update on that and take any questions that you may have. Yeah. Well, at least we're in the top flight. Okay. We're in the top flight. I just want to say Arsenal will be playing Champions League football next season. All right. Unlike Manchester United, who is
in Europa.
That's right. Who nearly got relegated.
But the Blues are there too, so you know how it is.
Anyway.
Morning, everybody. Of course, I guess you can press stop and press start. Yes, I'm elated that we just culminated the first ever semi-professional cricket league in St. Lucia yesterday at the Grosley Mini Stadium. Just a point of clarity, we have had compensation, albeit very small, in cricket in St. Lucia before, but nothing like what was in Akural yesterday. The government of St. Lucia gave, in terms of prizes, over $83,000 in terms of prizes. Of course, the first place team would have won $25,000 yesterday, the second place $15,000, and of course a little bit for each team based on their accomplishments. The individual players, of course, the teams will decide what they do with the actual grand prize, whether or not they invest it in the grassroots program or whether or not they decide, they have total autonomy to decide whether or not they spread it amongst the cricketers and administrators as well. But in terms of the players, The players would have received $500 per game. And if you do a calculation over that time period, they would have some players who would have made in excess of $6,000 for that tournament. Never before in St. Lucia's history can I announce to anybody that if you play cricket in St. Lucia over a month period, that you can make $5,000, $6,000. And this is a welcome investment in the individual homes. We have so many households, about 300 households impacted by this investment, and this is another feather in the cap of the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, and of course the government of St. Lucia, the Minister of Finance, who's worked tirelessly to see a youth economy in sport in St. Lucia. Of course, Grosley are the champions, if you've not heard of the first ever monetized cricket competition in St. Lucia at that level. They defeated South Castries, and so I want to send out some obituaries to the member for Castries South. They did well over the tournament. They defeated Grosley earlier in the tournament, but as I said to everybody, Grosley did come back and win in convincing fashion. The likes of Kimani Melius, Jad Goodman on display, Noah Leo, and some of the guys did very, very well for Grosley, and a lot of standout players. In terms of the atmosphere at Grosley, everybody enjoyed the festivities yesterday. We had some performances from some of our local stars, including Bronx and Mata, Monkster. Very good environment at the Grosley playing field. I want to say that there are a number of cricket programs in St. Lucia right now that our people could access. We have the grassroots cricket programs in Grosley and Babono and some of the other areas that young people from the age 7, 8, 9 can get involved in. We have a number of tournaments, including the SPL that we just saw, and we're about to move into the Dream 11 competition, which is another competition that would allow young cricketers to make some money over the next month. I'm excited about what's happening in sport. We certainly are excited about the High Performance Center as well. We're seeing a number of people breaking into regional and international teams as a result of their participation in cricket on a daily basis, and of course the compensation that they receive from that sort of program. So just to put it in perspective, we have cricketers in St. Lucia right now that would have received between $5,000 and $6,000 from playing in this tournament, and on many occasions, those that are part of the High Performance Center who gets a compensation of $1,500 per month. We have cricketers that over the last 4 to 6 weeks would have been walking home with close to $7,500. This is a huge feather in our cap. This is something that we said that we were going to do before we were elected. This is a promise kept to our young people, and it is only going to get better. Questions?
Yes, we saw the turnout at Grosley, but I know it's early days, but one of the issues would be the capacity.
Absolutely.
There was one time, a request was sent for the spectators to go to the grounds, but nobody would shift. They didn't want to get out from that mini stadium. So would that be one of the areas of concern or of improvement? Or,
Absolutely. I just want to also announce that the Grosley mini stadium is incomplete. It has not been completed. This is the first phase of that mini stadium in terms of the transitioning that we had. We will be commencing some work near the community center end. Of course, that area will be renamed as well. You'll be hearing a lot about that very soon. And of course, we will be clearing a particular area where people could have somewhat of a party stands atmosphere at the Grosley playing field as well. So the first phase is 98% complete. And as a matter of fact, in the month of June, we'll be seeing some commencement of work near the community center and a grand opening in August. I think the date that we've put in place is August 5th. For the brand new Grosley mini stadium. Of course, we will be renaming the stadium. We've had a lot of discussion from people in the community as to who from our history will occupy that space in terms of being named after. And of course, the stands pavilion, we will be making that announcement at that activity as well.
Another issue which has been of some concern is the traffic management in Grosley. We know Grosley is more and more becoming, a hub of entertainment, of activity. But there has been concern, especially the Friday night. Grosley doesn't have a no entry and a exit, so you have vehicles in and out and even the area that is designated a bus area, that area by Starry is there. Bus drivers can get a parking, so everybody's parking everywhere and in and out. But traffic management would be, because you have the stadium now, you have the center by the bay. You would be having traffic in and out. How do you propose? I know you're not into the infrastructure, might not be your portfolio, but as a rep for that community, do you think the traffic management needs some attention at this time?
Absolutely, and of course, this is the cost of development. We are developing rapidly in Grosley. We are seeing the Grosley Police Station nearing completion, and of course, that is a massive investment. We're also seeing the expansion of the Grosley Polyclinic, and of course, you guys could at some point bring the cameras, see the works that are ongoing in that area, and then you have the Grosley playing field and the community center also being developed and transitioned into a youth center with a gym downstairs for our young people. And so we're expecting the influx of people into this community to be even greater. I've had conversations with the police, the Grosley police. A lot of the things that we want to implement in Grosley as it pertains to policing, I don't want to say is on hold, but is hampered by the fact that we've not completed the Grosley police station, the divisional headquarters. So we've had those discussions. I must say kudos to the Grosley police and their team. They have worked feverishly to clamp down on some of the issues we've had with Friday night in terms of protecting people, in terms of having a plan to get people in and out of Grosley. These things evolve over time. So you would have a traffic management plan that would have worked 2 months ago. And then as you continue to develop, and as we will develop over the next 5 to 10 years under this government, you will see that this will have to evolve. And we do have the competence at the Grosley Police Station to ensure that this is done. And I'm going to have a sit down with them again to ensure that we continue to have those, those evolution of traffic management in the community of Grosley.
So would a bus stop or a bus terminal or something?
We have to understand that Grosley is also like a mini New York. We have a lot of ownership of those areas, those spaces privately. They are privately owned. So when we speak of a bus terminal in Grosley, then you might have to go into compulsory acquisition in the public interest and some of those things that are unsavory to do, generally speaking. So I think once we manage traffic, or once we evolve as a people in terms of understanding the development that has happened in that area, I think once we change our mentality and attitude, we'll be able to understand exactly how to maneuver in a community like Grosley. The population explosion in Grosley is real. The amount of vehicles that traverse the north is real. And I just think it's an attitudinal change and an evolution that we need for our people.
What about the public health amendment bill?
You like that question? Yes. The noise pollution, for me, I'm very confident in what we have so far. But again, a lot of discussion, even within the cabinet, on some of the clauses. I personally believe that it's never going to be a perfect document. I personally, as a parliamentary rep for Grosley, believe that I'm disappointed with the feedback on the legislation from the people. We are not getting enough. I personally don't feel like we are getting enough. It's in the public sphere, and we want to ensure that we have the best document possible, considering how needed it is for our community. I believe that at the end of the day, when we do pass it, you will see the efforts made by me and, of course, the Cabinet of Ministers to have something that captures all and sundry in the constituency of Grosley, with this melting pot of development, residential development, commercial development, but there's no quick answer, and that is why you would see that it is still not, the second reading has not actually occurred. So we will be discussing it. I will take it to Cabinet again today to find out exactly where we are as it pertains to noise pollution and actually getting it into Parliament again. But certainly it is not something that I would ignore as a parliamentary rep for Grosley.
So what's stopping it from advancing? It's
You can ask the Attorney General and the legal individuals with the legal minds that particular question in terms of where do we go next, where, are some of the hiccups legislatively that we are looking into to ensure that it is streamlined. As you would know, with the law, there will be a lot of consideration for best practices throughout the Caribbean and the world. And so we are just making sure that we have a document that is as thorough as possible.
Go back on SPL. Do you anticipate the SPL will open itself up to regional players? Will it attract regional players now that you seem to be, you have gotten off on a flying start?
Absolutely. Regional players were absolutely clamoring to be part of this competition. We're talking about players from St. Vincent, Dominica, Grenada, and of course some of the bigger islands, looking at SPL online and wanting to be part of it. In addition to that, ownership is another thing that we're looking at. I personally, as a parliamentary rep for Gros Islet, would like to see more buy-in from the businesses, the business sector in Gros Islet in terms of ownership of the Gros Islet Knights, in terms of contributions. Perhaps if we can get 50 or so businesses to contribute about $1,000 towards that, we have a large chunk of money to actually ensure that we continue to develop the program and to have a proper competition next year, even better competition. We're looking to ensure that it is spread throughout St. Lucia. I will do my part as parliamentary rep for Gros Islet. We have that discussion as it pertains to semi-professional football that we're expecting to kick off in the month of June. So I think the investments that we are making is to ensure that the level of competition continues to grow. So if we have players from the region interested in playing, each team, as we speak, did have one foreign-based player at their disposal. Of course, Gros Islet did not need to use theirs to win the tournament, but certainly I've had conversations with the organizers to see if we can look into having 2 next year and possibly even 3. So that our players could mingle with some of the best from the other islands. I do see a situation where in the next 4 or 5 years, with this competition, that we would probably be having 5 from each Caribbean island, and talking about Jamaica, Trinidad, being interested in what's actually happening in St. Lucia and being a part of it. As a small island, we do have the best product in terms of a SPL. As a small island, a developing island, we are the envy of so many countries as it pertains to what's happening in our sports development right now. You meet individuals who visit St. Lucia from Guyana, Trinidad. We had some of the players from the West Indies A team in our midst yesterday, and they were really impressed with the organization of this activity. And you meet the young people that are involved in cricket, and they say that they really want to be part of this competition, not just because of the compensation, but also because of the atmosphere and the camaraderie that we are seeing, the development we are seeing amongst our young people that sports actually brings in the character. Sports for development is what we always preach at our ministry, and we are seeing the results of that as it pertains to less people being on the blocks. Over that period, you would have looked and you would have seen in terms of what was happening. You don't want to ever jinx and speak to crime figures, but certainly we are seeing that we're headed in the right direction because the training programs would have started months ago for the SPL, and we see in football as well a number of the players off the blocks already because we know that semi-professional football is on the brink. So this is the programs that we are implementing, and this is a cycle that we are looking to establish in St. Lucia as it pertains to sports.
The vision playing field, would you be able to just tell us the extent of the renovations? We see that the fence was taken off the side facing the airport, there's a wall. Why the change?
Okay, so first and foremost, we need to be able to monetize our venues. All the efforts being made to develop sport in St. Lucia requires finances. And so one of the ways we can do that is through having advertising base at our venues. If you drive near the Granivier playing field, if you come in from north and going south, you would see that we fenced half of the playing area, the perimeter, and that is to provide advertising. I can tell you in terms of Granivier that all the spots have already been taken by advertisers. This money will go directly into maintaining the playing field, providing some compensation for a young man to maintain the playing field. And this is what we want replicated throughout the island. VG is no exception. We'll be creating some more advertising base, and that will ensure that we can maintain the playing surface for all the youth programs that we see in the city center. I continue to say this. There's no developing, burgeoning, emerging island or country in sport that does not have an elite sports venue in the city center. You can do your research. Every developing country in sport have a playing venue in the capital for young people in terms of programming. So that is why there is the focus on the VG playing field and, of course, the VG multipurpose court, because the city center is the hub of programming. Anybody who would come from Africa, from the US, from Europe, who wants to implement a program, they would want it someplace near the city. We've seen that over our history. This government is doing something about it. So you will see the perimeter wall being completed within the next 2 weeks. You'll also see the stands renovated within that time period. And then the lights that we continue to have discussions with the DCA and, of course, the airport. This is the vision that we have to ensure that we have programming beyond the hours of 6 o'clock in the capital of St. Lucia.
Certainly, lastly, not least, Julian Alfred, I know you tuned into her race on the weekend. What are your reaction?
Easy stuff. We good. The progress that she's made, the maturity that we've seen from her, the humility, being the fastest woman in the world, she has not changed. I mean, it's a wonder that she is the one being tasked with lifting St. Lucia all over the world, representing St. Lucia, and she, her mentality, her attitude towards training, towards representing St. Lucia has not changed, and that is what we are looking to. She has the ambition of bringing 2 gold medals at the Lex Olympics. So you see a lot of focus on the 200 meters, and she's just maturing very well. Her performances are improving by the second, it seems, and so we have a lot of hope. We have a lot of hope in our young women as well. Naomi London running 11.07 seconds about a week or 2 ago. Wind aided, but certainly at her age, absolutely impressive. And so we are looking to see what we can continue to do with Jada, Emmanuel, and the likes, Asia Lorenzen establishing. We do have 4. We do need at least 6 or 7 on rotation for us to have this world-class 4x1 relay team, which would really, really put St. Lucia even more on the map.
All right. Any other questions?
Yes,
Okay. Hold on. Hey.
Just
the
to go
last
back to SPL, so I know you did touch on it in the beginning, but what is your personal assessment of the public response to SPL, feedback you received, and so on?
Absolutely. One of the challenges that we've had is the marketing of our professional, products in terms of cricket and football. I've met a lot of people that said to me, despite the fact that it's advertised on radio and TV, on social media, that they were still not aware that this was happening. It means that we have to go back to the drawing board and do even more in terms of the community interventions. So in terms of Groseley, have more personalized, targeted marketing to really bring the fans out. But nevertheless, we had a packed Groseley mini stadium yesterday, so much so people had to filter into the other side. And so marketing of both the semi-professional football and cricket is somewhere we're going to definitely focus on as we continue to develop the product.
Okay, and you did mention extensively about some of the interventions to make it more competitive, like making it regional. Anything else that you left out, or is that it?
Well, there are many things that we continue to speak about. Some of it is not necessarily on the field, off the field, in terms of getting each team to have a cheerleader, like a cheerleading sort of bunch of people from the community. Each team should have at least, you should be able to identify 6 to 8 young women and of course men who wants to get into cheerleading to be part of the team, to go around and to really create that vibrant atmosphere. Of course, next year, we really want to see an even bigger celebration in terms of the fireworks when the trophy is actually given, the confetti. There are lots of things that we're planning to ensure that we execute even better next year. And I'm definitely looking forward to a post-mortem and for this to be a bigger activity as the years go by.
Okay, and just moving on to, so there was a death in Grand Riviere last week. Rakim, 26 years old, as a Minister of Youth. And so you did touch on crime. Just your reaction to that, and in terms of your feelings towards some of the interventions in terms of crime to help curb that problem as well.
Yeah, this one actually hit home in the sense that I knew the individual, close with the family, know them very, very well. That night I visited the family, spent time with the father and the mother, of course. They are no strangers to me, related to his mother. I just continue to encourage young people to take advantage of the many, many programs, the many interventions that we as a government have put in place, interventions that were never in existence before, and find a different way of dealing with conflict, dealing with other individuals in the community that you may run into problems with. We continue to encourage that. But the fact of the matter is, I've never made crime and violence a political issue. I will never post on social media about somebody's death and not even visit the family and then just make statements that you say are not political but are definitely political to indicate as if government is not doing anything. We all have our part to play. There is no way I as a parliamentary rep would have been able to decipher or discern that this was going to happen and therefore do something about that activity. What I as a parliamentary rep can see is that we have proactively ensured that we work on our venues, work on our different infrastructure. Grand Riviere, about a month away from actually opening a Grand Riviere Community Center, so we can have programs, drama programs, music programs, dance programs, to actually get young people involved in activities. The court, multipurpose court, never been done in Grand Riviere. DJ Mafre, multipurpose court, sorry. So that, those involved in basketball, in netball, in volleyball, and of course the playing field. These are things that we've worked on. We continue to encourage the groups, the youth groups, to do their part. We've had some YWI programs in that community, of course taken away from us by the US under the new president, but interventions to actually bring young people together to have some form of a cathartic session to just talk about what's happening in the community. I'm confident that we are going to continue along our path and we are going to continue to see the numbers go down. That is what I want. I'm not sure if that's what the others want in terms of opposition, but that is what I would like to see.
Good morning.
Wow. Morning. I just feel like I've been there for a long time. It's afternoon.
But
Yeah.
I would say still on this issue of crime. Shortly after the homicide, your political opponent, I might say, from the United Workers' Party, would have criticized what she described as your silence regarding crime and youth death and so on. So, and you said, of course, that you visited the family. So how would you reconcile the two?
Well, I would ask you to find out if this individual has actually visited the family. Check social media, find out if there was any outreach for the family, because my information when I was there last night was that they were very disappointed with the reaction towards this happening to their son and the fact that it was made a political issue. The fact of the matter is I have been vocal about the programming of my ministry in a proactive way to deal with young people and to ensure that they do not become deviant and then become criminals. I have spoken at length about how we as a community move forward through the availability of skills, the youth economy, young people, seeing a way for them to be part of an economy and the development of St. Lucia. I've spoken ad nauseum to young individuals actually taking advantage of that program, and I can see you can do any research, the bulk of individuals that have benefited from the youth economy program actually comes from the constituency of Gros-Islet. Again, you can do your research on that. The MSME loans as well, the grants as well, they have benefited from that activity. And again, small businesses, young people continue to come to my constituency office. They need a fridge for their small business. They need a stove to continue to cook at one of our venues in Grosley, and we provide that level of support. So I just think right now there's a lot of desperation. There's a lot of things being said that absolutely make absolutely no sense at all. I do not believe in that sort of politics. My conversation has always been on how we move the constituency of Grosley forward, and I'm very, very confident that the people of Grosley have seen the efforts made by me as the parliamentary rep, and they have full confidence in me moving forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister.
Thank you all.
I'll just start by, unless you want to ask me something before, just give you a brief overview of what the experience was. It was actually the Caribbean Travel Marketplace hosted by the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, St. Lucia being one of the countries, OECS countries, hosted in Antigua and Barbuda. It was a three-day experience. In addition to the various presentations, each country had its delegation of service providers, so they had their booths, and St. Lucia, of course, being one of those countries. I must tell you that the level of the response to our team was phenomenal. I think you might want to say we starred in this event, not just because of the presentations, but because of how the various countries in the region related to the way we sell and market our tourism products. I can tell you for sure that during the press brief, we had the CEO of SLTA, as well as the head of marketing, and of course the communications persons. All of them gave some insights, and it was well received. The international press, they had some very interesting questions regarding one of the main areas that we are setting the trend. There are two areas where St. Lucia is really well ahead of our colleagues, and I think that it's not a competition, but it really shows the direction in which the government is going. One of them is the sustainable tourism, and the other one is the community tourism. I'm sure that you would have known that we recently passed the TDA, the Tourism Development Act, and that is really something that a number of the countries in the region are very curious about. They did have a lot of questions for me on that. They want to, to find out how it works, how it works with the incentives as well as investments in tourism. I think that is a very progressive piece of work that we've done, and we're very proud of that as St. Lucia. You have countries like Jamaica and Barbados who are trying to, to pick up on it. And so I think the general experience was very good for us. Our service providers on the ground, I took time to visit their booths. We had from hotels and other service providers, and the feedback was extremely good. I think they felt that the clientele is excited. We have opportunities now with the situation with the US and Canada, those tensions, and what opportunities it creates for us, because Canadian tourists are looking for new opportunities and other options. We continue to, one of the issues on the table was the discussion on regional travel, which remains a challenge. As you would know, moving between the islands can be very frustrating in terms of the costing, and we have explored some other options. In fact, we had to charter a flight to Antigua on Sunrise Airways. And of course, since the departure of Liat, or the changes in Liat, there still remains some regional travel challenges. So these were among some of the main issues of discussion that came up at the travel market in Antigua and Barbuda.
Yes, not related to the marketplace, but I imagine the Ministry of Tourism is aware of the situation happening at the construction site of Isla Resort.
What exactly?
Workers last Friday, they laid out the tools. As they were told in the morning, there was changes to their pay.
The original, what was agreed in the contract that they signed was 180 per day, and they were told on Friday morning that this would be cut to $100. The workers claim that what the Atlas would have been saying is that they were not, I guess, skilled.
When did that happen? When did that happen?
Last Friday.
Friday. I think I would have been out at that time. So I would not want to...
You're unaware?
No, I wouldn't want to speak to that because I do not have the details. I'd probably want to consult with my colleague on that one.
Would the ministry be providing an update on that? Because this
I'm
morning
sure we
there was
will.
another...
There is another development?
Yeah, and well,
Okay.
I did speak with the representatives of the of ILA, and they did say it will affect the pace of work.
Well, of course. I mean, that is a big investment. In fact, it came up at Travel Marketplace as one of the highlights that it's a $1.3 billion investment. And if there are any issues there, I mean, looking at over 1,000 rooms, I mean, this wellness tourism, which is another area that is trending with us in the Caribbean. So if there are any issues with that particular project, I'm sure that is not something you can just push aside. So we will be looking at that, but I couldn't speak to it in detail because I was not aware of that situation.
One other thing in your response, if you please, is that the workers are claiming that they are being pushed out to make way for Indian workers.
Let me just comment on that generally because I've heard that discussion a few times, not only with that particular resort, but with other, let's say, other construction type workers or projects. What we have in St. Lucia is that we have gone to a stage where we actually have to decide whether we want to source labor because there is a lot of opportunity for that. Some of the specialized skills and competencies that you require in some of those projects will require that you import some kind of if you can call it manual labor. We do have a very we're a small country, and we have ensured that we give priority to St. Lucians when it comes to work. But there are specific skills and competencies that you require for specific tasks. And that we cannot run away from that, but not at the expense of St. Lucians. If there is something that needs to be done and St. Lucians have the capacity locally to do it, we will go for the St. Lucians first.
Does not labor laws allow the contractor to just breach the contract without any...
No. The labor laws is a different conversation. Labor laws are very clear, and for you to be able to have to import labor, you have to go through the Ministry of Labor. There's a process. You have to apply, it has to be approved. So these are very well guided. But the general principle is that we welcome the idea because we have to, if we have to be successful at bringing about these investments, we have to make sure that we provide quality and we are time sensitive because people put their money into those things and we want to make sure that the investments are there. But I do not believe that we will ever consider outside labor or sourcing labor ahead of our local labor once they are available.
There was a breach of contract as well.
Well, I can't speak to that one. That one is, you've repeated it 3 times, and if I had a response, I would have. So I cannot speak to that particular one because I do not have the details. But I'm sure that by the end of this week, we would have gotten to the bottom of that. Like I said, this investment is too big for us to ignore any issues. Yes?
You did mention that at the market in Antigua tourism market, sustainable development of the industry came up. I wanted to ask, in those conversations, does the issue of beachfront resorts and building of the ports and so on, in the face of warnings about rising sea level, does that come up and is that discussed and considered in terms of tourism development?
Absolutely. In fact, in our Tourism Development Act, one of the conditions that we have for incentives, because it guides the incentives regime, is that the developers or investors who have specific sustainable tourism packages within their business will be able to benefit from the basic incentives and get add-ons. So for example, if you are using, you have wastewater treatment management, or you have solar panels, or you, even with the way you deal with the environment, you have specific practices there. that will entitle you to additional incentives. So that's another method that we use to ensure that we encourage it. And one of the others is actually the wages of your workers. And it's interesting that the question of wages came up because we actually, within that legislation, have made provisions for additional incentives for investors and businesses or hotels who actually, the remuneration for their staff is a little higher than the regular ones. So all of these are efforts to further incentivize the industry. But sustainable tourism is a major one. And I'm happy to see that some of the steps we've taken are being emulated by the rest of the region. There's one more thing that I think I didn't mention, and that is with regard to international travel. St. Lucia is really becoming more of a luxury, or has become a highly sought after luxury destination. And we have to find a proper balance, because when your airlines are coming in and the front of the plane is being filled before the back of the plane, if you know what I mean, all your business class seats are taken before people are actually buying your economy class. It tells you that you are becoming a market that is slowly or quickly attracting high-end or high value, quote-unquote, visitors. But we must ensure that we keep the back of the plane full as well. And that is why we are also incentivizing 3-star and bed and breakfast type accommodations, so that our visitors are not only coming in with, you know, the first class, business class, big dollar people, but you also have persons who can have an affordable vacation, and so we don't become an exclusively luxury vacation destination. So that is one of the areas that we acknowledge that we have to continue to make sure we have a balance.
Yes, just briefly, sir, just within our tourism development structure, we know of the creatives, you know, of the, you know, the service providers, but an area now that seems to be is maintenance when you talk about skilled workers, because now you have interior designing, you know, you have different, you know, windows, architecture, wood. I mean, it's not a set deal, but would the tourism extend a hand now to accommodate, you know, more of these you know, sort of maintenance workers, or you call it architectural workers, because it seems to be that we're lacking in this field.
That's true. I think taking a holistic approach, collaborative, and there's another term, a fancy term they use, with the using the various different sectors coming together to share the responsibility. And I think that needs to be done, because the other industries, agriculture, for example, manufacturing, these have to support the industry. And labor is one of them, and skill training, competence. That is why the youth economy is alongside this, and the CSME, because what that does, it allows for opportunities for persons who may not have acquired certain types of competencies or skills to now source it, because it is a demand. And if you have to maintain your facilities and your properties, we have our technical officers who go out into these properties and to check that they are of the standard that is required. These people require a certain level of training. How will they know whether the facility is at the standard or not? And all of these force you almost to be able to maintain those standards. So yes, linkages is probably the word I was looking for. When there are linkages between the tourism industry and other industries, everybody has to function at the same level. If you cannot have a successful tourism industry or tourism product if it's not supported by proper other industries that actually provide the requisite support from, for example, agriculture and manufacturing and commerce. These are key to support the tourism industry. If not, then the industry cannot survive on its own. And one more thing is the environmental issue. Almost all of the investments that come to us for approval, they require DCA approval. You have to make sure that all of those things are in place. So these linkages have to be properly connected for it to work.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think that was your debut, right?
Yeah, that's my first.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't be the last. All right?
To all, of course, good afternoon, sorry. And let me welcome back Mr. Tench. I haven't seen you for a while. Trust that your studies are going well. Well, I think there are a couple of issues which were raised by Riani. For sure, let me just speak a bit about, Cicero, and of course the session ceremony for our annual pageant and Cicero Carnival on the 22nd of June. So pageant on the 21st and the parade on the 22nd. We have our community motorcade on the 14th, where we parade the girls through the community. It's our annual event, and it really kickstarts the final stretch to Carnival in St. Lucia. And it's the first community carnival, so it's always a very big event. It's really put Cicero on the national stage. So I invite all to join us on the 21st at the Cicero Secondary School for our annual pageant. It's a very special pageant. It's not a typical carnival pageant. It started off for young mothers in the constituency, and is an opportunity for them, despite having children, to be able to participate in pageantry, to really show off their skills, their talents, their beauty. And it has really helped as well for the activities we organize in terms of self-esteem, self-respect, and the developmental side of it. So it is a special community event for us. It's not a typical, carnival pageant. So, and the community has certainly embraced it. Staying in Carnival, we've agreed this year to separate the primary schools Calypso competition from the secondary schools because of the length of the shows. Of course, this year we've introduced school soca as in addition to the school's Calypso competition. And because of the length of the show, it would have gone way past 6 o'clock. So a decision was taken, and the Chief Education Officer, I'm informed, has consented to we breaking it into two shows, a primary school and a secondary school segment. So that will be a change for this year. And of course, the CPMC will issue a statement providing greater details on the dates and the commencement time and ending time. And of course, the Calypso 10 started last weekend, and already a couple of songs did come out, creating buzz. It's a special time of the year for us, and especially persons who follow Calypso. And certainly this year we added an extra night for each Calypso 10. So whereas in the past they had 2 nights and then went into quarterfinals, this year they'll have 3 nights and then go into quarterfinals. So we have a slightly elongated Calypso season. Again, all indications are such that we will have a bumper carnival season. The flights are difficult to get, rooms are difficult to get, and we expect our numbers to be bigger than they were last year. So it's a question now of executing. The rains have started earlier this year, and like everything else, but we know Carnival is during the hurricane season, so we just ride with it and take it as it comes. We will be making an announcement as to where we'll be hosting the schools competitions. We've moved to the SAB, but there are some works taking place there now. So we would shift the venue, and the CPMC will make a formal announcement as to, like I said, the date, time, and place, where the venue where it will be hosted. So I'm looking forward to it, especially the soca competition. So we're progressing quite well. Certainly on the carnival preparations. We've also started preparations for Emancipation Month, which is in August. So very shortly we'll be making an announcement as to the activities for Emancipation Month. And certainly to let everyone know, over the last 3 years since we came into government in July 2021, we've made the celebration of emancipation a key feature on our calendar of events. So that too will be given prominence, and we will inform all of what we've planned. So maybe I can take your questions now. I think you already have.
So Cicero, why not broaden it to Castries South?
Yeah, I did announce yesterday. This is probably the last year we'll do it as a Miss Cicero. It will be broadened to Miss Castries South, because the other communities are asking to be part of the activities. So it is something we actively considering. When I started off as Parliament Rep, I wanted each community to have its own unique and distinct activity. So in Fuasho we had a dance and theatrical presentation. That's what we had in FOA show. In Basse Joseph, it was more cultural. We had the solo night in December. Cicero had the pageant and carnival. And in Marigo, we did an Emancipation Day event in 2017 on the beach in Marigo, the first Emancipation. We actually did it in Marigo in 2017. And of course, things in Marigo kind of changed, so we never really had another follow-up activity. Marigo also had a Jeunesse Creole in October, which was a very big activity. So we wanted each community to have their own distinct activity. But I think the pageant and carnival in Cicero has certainly grown, and other communities want to be part of it. So it's something we may have to look at how we grow it. But it's something I have to consult the different stakeholders first. I think for the pageant, we're almost sure we have to expand it now. Rather than have 4 or 5 pageants, let's just have one big pageant. The carnival now, some people are saying we should move the carnival to Millennium Highway to allow all the other communities to come and participate, and it's growing. As you know, we use the Cicero Main Road. You chip from the top of the hill down to the bottom, through Monkey Tongue, and end by my office. And some people are saying, look, I mean, it's growing too big for the community. Maybe we should move it to Millennium Highway, at least from Cul-de-sac roundabout to the gas station or something like this. But we'll consult and discuss and see how we can grow it. But I think aside from just that, I would love to see maybe a community calypso competition or soca competition. I think it's not just about the bacchanal in terms of the carnival, but we have to, all the other artistic expressions should come to play. So we will discuss it, and God willing, next year we'll see some changes.
Okay.
Yes.
Last Friday, and today, the workers on the Isla Resort development, they were protesting the increase in their pay. Your concerns about this situation?
You said today as well?
Yeah,
they are
today
protesting.
They were there to get their money, as they say. They want their money. So.
Okay. Well, what I was briefed on, what I was told is that, and first of all, let me say there are more than 500 persons working on the site. And the developer has been one of the most accommodating persons that have ever done a project in St. Lucia. And he virtually employed just as many people that came looking for employment. And when you do come to state your employment, you are required to state what your skills are. So persons registered as masons, carpenters, different levels of specialization, and they will pay the rate in accordance with what they registered as. As the project developed and construction continued, they realized that some people really don't have the skills that they claim to be. So if you say you're a tradesman and you're a mason and they're paying you $180 a day, and they realize for the last, whatever the period of time, you really don't have that skill set. So there was a review of the skill sets and the different persons and an adjustment. If you really was not a carpenter or a tradesman like you said you were, the point was, look, we have to adjust your pay, and you're prepared to go through a training program to make sure you upskill, and then for you to get the rightful pay. So some persons who were below actually got increases in pay, and some persons who really were not delivering, they were told they had to go back to their skills level and to do training. If there's one thing I must tell you that the developer really puts emphasis on is training of persons, imparting new technologies in construction for our local people. So for example, when we visited there recently, when we saw how long it took our local contractors, say, to pour concrete compared to their own competencies they have, is a vast difference, because our people now have to be exposed to new techniques of doing things. These are people who are accustomed to building multi-story buildings in short periods of time. They know a lot of the new work techniques, ways of organizing work to be a lot more efficient. And it's a question of teaching our local contractors and workers how to do those modern technologies. When you go there, for example, and I can always organize a visit for the media, and I think some of you have been there before, when you look at the blocks that they are using, it's not the blocks we use in St. Lucia. The blocks they use are lighter, it's mold resistant, it's moisture resistant, it is, fire resistant. It is, it's a different soundproof, whatnot. It's a different construction technology that they use. The rate at which they pour concrete and mix concrete up there is totally different to what we do in St. Lucia. So in their view, What they had to do was to really take stock of the skill sets that they employed and how they were paying those persons and to make adjustments. So they're committed to everybody staying there and working there. Those who there's some people that they just cannot keep because they're really not delivering the way they're supposed to deliver. And they've given us the assurance. When I heard about the issues, I did contact them and they explained to me what was going on, and they gave the assurance that any St. Lucian who is prepared to work at the levels at which they ought to work, if they want training, they can get training. If you're already at that level, they'll be compensated at the right level. So it's a question now of monitoring what's going on and to make sure that our workers are always treated well. We're not compromising on that. But at the same time, if somebody says you're a carpenter and you want $180 a day, you'll have to deliver as a carpenter. So I'm going to monitor it and just make sure that there are no untold issues happening there.
The workers are also claiming that they've been pushed out to be replaced with, I think, about 300 Indian workers, according to them.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
Because I said it according to what you would have said, and also the developer, that, again, to push the work.
Yeah, I mean, the Indian workers, I know that they mention as specialized people because they're now going into the final stages of setting up the wellness center, which requires specialized work in terms of setting it up, the furnishings, the fittings, the equipment, whatnot. They require specialist workers that can do certain things. And I know they made a request for some workers, not many. I think it is in the teens. I can't remember the exact amount, but not many, that they will need specialist people to come in to set up that, because we don't have those competencies in St. Lucia. But this thing about, I don't know nothing about it. And that would not be allowed. I don't even know how that can even happen. I mean, yeah. So.
You're saying something? Is there a development plan for the Marigo Beach?
Yes, there is.
Okay, I think they have some of the men, about 14, 15 of them would be working on that beach. They have vending booths, I believe.
That's not true.
How many of them?
None.
They're what they're saying.
But they have nothing. Those people have nothing to do with Marigo.
The men on those who sell on that beach.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Isla workers will be working.
No, not Isla workers on the beach at Marigo. There's a development that is planned with EMAC for there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what workers are saying? Well, vendors. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They have concerns that they might lose their livelihoods because of that development.
Vendors in Marigo on the beach told you that?
That's on the beach. Yeah.
In Marigo?
Yeah.
My dear, I would want to be there to hear them say that. Because no vendor in Marigo can look at you in the eye and tell you about they losing their livelihood.
Okay.
Seriously. And if you tell me, take me to that vendor and let me hear the vendor say that.
Because they're
vendors in Marigo, you say?
Yeah, that's on those who are on the beach. I believe there's
the Marigo I represent it?
Yes.
Another Marigo.
Yes.
So let me tell you, because I don't know where you're getting your information from. And if you want, you and I will go to Marigo on Wednesday.
Yes, sure.
And I will engage them with you. I was on Marigo Beach up to last month. The Marigo project is a project that actually there are two projects for Marigo. One funded under the World Bank. Previously the the ORTCP project, and we're going to upgrade the landward side, so that's from by the police station all the way wrong, pass through Chateau Marigo, all the way to the end. And it would upgrade the entire waterfront. A boardwalk will be built through Chateau Marigo down to the end, where the fishermen have their boats and their stuff. They'll be relocated south thing, and the entire waterfront will be redeveloped with shopping and a more upgraded waterfront, including the jetty repaired to allow the front. Then on the beach side, the La Basse beach, there's a separate private development. First of all, the beach is receding, as you can see. A lot of the beach has been lost. So there's going to be a development to rebuild the beach to what it was. So you have a lot more. We go back to the original beach, and they've probably lost at least 10 feet already of the beach, whatnot. And the vendors right now, there's no running water. There are no toilets really on the beach now. And a beach bar facility with vending facility will be built there by a developer. And the discussions we've had with the vendors, and that's why I want you to go with me for whoever to say what they said. They've been told that they will remain there with upgraded facilities. Upgraded facilities. They have been part of the discussion from 2 years ago. I was with them last month. I spent time there with them, talking to them, telling them we're now going into the design phase and we'll come back and show them the designs. They asked all the questions, reminded them of all the commitments that have been made to them, and they were very happy. In fact, my issue with them is that there's a lot that happens on the beach in Marigot. A lot. Harassment of tourists is one of the areas we get the most negative reports on treatment of persons using the beach, both locals and visitors. And I've made it very clear to them that we're moving forward and we're uplifting the standards on the Marigot Beach, and everybody must rise with the development. So all of them will have to fall in line to get the training, go through the whole process of upgrading, and for them to be able to deliver world-class service to the persons who will be coming on the beach from now on. So gone are the days when fellas fighting with each other and who cursing who and all those things. That must stop. That must stop. Vendors will not be affected. Vendors will be getting enhanced facilities, enhanced, at no detriment to themselves. Some of the other activities that take place on the beach, we'll have to manage that accordingly. And I've said so to them. It will be managed accordingly. Some of what takes place now, we'll have to bring an end to it. Everybody is welcome to come and make a bread, make a living, but it will have to be within some very clear principles and regulations. And I did not hesitate to say that to them. So maybe I can't see any vendor telling you that they're worried when they've been given the assurance that they will keep what they have, it will be upgraded to them and at no detriment to themselves. What I can tell you, if anybody will complain, are some of the persons who've caused problems in the past. We can have let's go down there with me on Wednesday, and all of us will go there and think. Of course, people will always tell you until they get the keys for the place, they will never believe what they hear. You always have that, but that's fine. I mean, everybody has a right to doubt if you want to doubt. But the point is, vendors will not be disadvantaged. Those who create problems will be disadvantaged because we will not tolerate it anymore. Everybody is welcome to come and earn a living, but they must follow the regulations. And we're not going to compromise on that, because and not just Marigot, throughout the country, opportunities will be created for St. Lucians to own part of the tourism industry, to participate in it. But it cannot be anybody does anything they want, whenever they want, however they want. It just doesn't work that way. And our approach is very clear. We're not about licensing people. We're about certifying people. Work with you to raise your standards and to be able to deliver world-class service. So when any part of the world come to Marigot Beach from now on, they will come and enjoy a world-class experience. And there'll be locals from the community delivering that for them. Trained to world-class standards. That's what we're dreaming of. And the same thing will happen in the Banans Bay Fishermen's Village. Upskilling, upgrading to deliver world-class standards. The boardwalk will be building at the waterfront there. The same principle will have to apply. And throughout the country, whether you go to Soufrière, to Ancillary, to Mon Repos, is about delivering world-class standards. And we have to say to St. Lucians, you can deliver world-class standards. And some of us are already world-class. And we will set standards, whether it's taxi drivers, boat operators, sites and attractions, or everybody will have to understand the standards we want to train people to reach, and for them to be able to see that they are delivering world class. And and if there are some people who don't like that, then I'm just sorry. Well, yeah. Well, Orange Riani, I'll be in my constituency from about 9:30 on Wednesday, so we can always go there.
Okay, so I'm going back to Carnival. We'll be seeing lots of people coming down to St. Lucia. So would that Airbnb program be reinstated to accommodate those who want? Because we have a problem with rooms.
Yeah, Airbnbs are making a killing that time of the year.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Will that incentive be given to homeowners now?
No, it exists already. Yeah. If you want to try something, you can invest in that. It exists right now under the new TDA we have and under the community tourism legislation. There are 2 ways in which you can benefit from it right now. Yeah. That's a different kind.
So, why am I asking the political
So, Jello,
question?
you're about to ask a question? To me, you've never asked a question. You know.
All right, I'll ask the question for her. All right. Mr. Minister, I know you're not the Minister for Immigration. However, on the opposition side, it is claimed or alleged that St. Lucians seeking visa renewals are getting rejected and denied by the U.S. Embassy, allegedly because of the mismanagement of the CIP program. Has the U.S. Embassy communicated to this government, or are you aware of any complaints even that might give or substantiate such a claim?
No, I've never heard that before. I don't know that there is any issue with the mismanagement of the CIP program. I know the opposition has been selling that narrative. The opposition does something. They would shout, rain, and then there's no rain. And they say, it was raining earlier. You say, but why was it raining? But we said it was raining. So they say something and they define everything thereafter. And it is almost comical because I saw a place where, one of them was saying, all the reports about crime in St. Lucia, blah, blah, blah. And I asked, well, where are the reports? No, but we had made that statement about it. We made a statement that you make statements, you say something, and then you want to judge that as reality. I don't know that there is any such statement being made by the U.S. We work very well with the U.S. when it comes to the CIP and how, they're one of our major stakeholders, and we work really, really well with them in terms of any improvements they want to see. And they support us tremendously in our due diligence processes. So we are grateful for the effort they put in making sure that our program is robust. The U.S. themselves, and you would have heard, the U.S. is launching their golden visa card, as it is called. The UK is talking about reintroducing theirs. Vietnam has just introduced theirs. New Zealand introducing. So, I mean...
But Minister, you're not aware of any St. Lucian citizen coming from the U.S. Embassy and being rejected because of CIP?
No, I don't know of any such situation. I think the whole of St. Lucia knows that there's a change of administration in the U.S. and the Trump administration has its own immigration policy and how they treat applications and people in the U.S. And they are guided by that. I know nothing. I've not heard of any individual.
There's another political question. From the opposition side, they believe that the fishers in Bannans Bay are being given the short end of the stick when compared to someone like Marjorie, who received supposedly a large $250,000 settlement, and the fishers are being offered peanuts, a paltry sum from SLASPA and the government with the development there scheduled to take place.
But the fishers are not being moved.
The opposition says that they're being offered $35,000.
Well, I mean, if I were a fisher, I would take my $35,000. I mean, put it that way, from what I know of the development again, is that they are going to build new facilities for the fishers. They will get a new landing bay. They will get new selling facilities with running water and properly designed. They will also get new rooms for them to stay, those who are overnighting before they go out in the morning. The fishers are not being moved. They're actually upgrading the facilities for fishers. So the only issue I know the fishers will have is that they will be temporarily relocated whilst the reconstruction of their area is taking place. So anybody that has loss of earnings, they will cater for that. They're actually getting a very good deal, I must tell you. Most of the persons in that area are not fishermen. They're not fishermen. And most of the structures in there are empty. They were built for various reasons, and there's no issue of any fisherman or fisher folk being removed from that area. So these are just the usual rumors.
Here's one last one. The unemployment data for 2024 is fake, and your administration is publishing fake information, fake numbers, because they believe that at least 5,000 people left the job market last year, and the numbers are fake. Can you, as an economist,
Yeah.
how's that?
5,000 people left the job market last year, and therefore the numbers are fake. I mean, it's one thing to say the numbers look better because you have a smaller labor force to take into account. But you need to corroborate that with other data. How many more persons are employed? You need to go to NIC and ask NIC how many more persons are paying NIC. Because if more people are paying NIC than ever before, that means more persons are employed than ever before. And you don't just throw a number out there. But what's instructive is that first they will say that the numbers are fake. But if in the next quarter the numbers show that unemployment has increased slightly, they say, you see, look at that, unemployment has increased over the same fake number they said to you. Huh? They now using your low number that you give that they said was fake as the base to reference whatever they're going to say. The same way they said tourism numbers were fake, that the crowds at jazz were fake, they were AI generated. So I think they are fake. They are AI generated, if anything. I mean, when a deputy politically of a party can speak about the effort to provide school children with support for their period poverty and stuff like that, you have to wonder if he's AI for true. I mean, who in any good state of mind will have such disrespect for women and young women in particular? Sometimes you wonder if they are not AI generated.
Any other questions? Okay, I think that's all. Mr. Minister?
No, there's still a question.
I thought you insisted.
All right, well, yeah.
I wanted to find out, because was it about 2 months ago or a month ago, there were reports of increased crime in the Rodney Bay area, specifically targeting tourists. And I know the SLHDA was making some efforts to sort of, work in that area to address that problem. Haven't checked in with the police yet to find out the updates, but we have had a few comments online with people still indicating that there might be an issue there. From your standpoint, tourism standpoint, is that still a concern?
I mean, it's always a concern for us. Any area where you have large numbers of visitors, whether it is for sight and attraction or restaurants, we will always be on the lookout for it. In fact, we start our planning for the next season this Friday. We actually have a review of the cruise season for last year and some of the work that we have to do to prepare. We're going to be going to Soufrière in the next 2 weeks to have a meeting on their stakeholders to start preparing for the next season, which starts in October. So we're trying to prepare 3-4 months in advance. And a crucial issue for us will be visitor safety. The Rangers have finally finished their training, getting ready for deployment, again ahead of the new season, and we will see greater emphasis on visitor safety and to make sure that individuals, when they do come to St. Lucia, we can provide greater comfort and safety and security for them when they come in. So it is always a concern for us. And sometimes it rises and falls, in terms of the incidents, and there are a lot of changes that we're going to make in terms of improving street lighting, making sure that, the areas are debushed and there's no space for people to, to hide and whatnot. We also need to do a lot of work on community sensitization, because the communities must now start owning the products to be able to become, more proactive when they see any issue happening, to alert the police, whatnot. But you will see this coming season an enhanced focus on all aspects. Like I said, the Rangers will be equipped with jet skis and, the ATVs and whatnot to make sure they can go into all the respective areas. The police themselves also have their jet skis and their ATVs, and we're really going to make a determined effort. And the police has really worked harder. I mean, sometimes, you criticize and people express, their criticisms openly. But the police, certainly this present leadership, has really gone out and made a determined effort to address concerns when they are brought to them. And we see a lot of proactive approaches to deal with some of those issues. So I'm excited about the pre-planning that's already starting to take shape, and we expect to put in systems in place to deal with those concerns. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Have a good afternoon, all.
All right. Thank you.